Hey guys, welcome back. So, regarding what I shared yesterday with you, we were talking about the Big Bang and how it happened over the weekend regarding $80 trillion worth of swaps. Okay? I stayed quiet on this, guys, for a reason because I wanted to see how it impacted you guys. I wanted to see how much research you guys might put into this and see. I wanted to see what your thoughts were. I wanted to see if you guys thought or felt that this could have any impact on the rate change. So I was curious to see what your thoughts were. I wanted to feel you guys out. So let me help you out with this, guys, because I know many of you got discouraged, and because there was quite a few people, guys. It wasn't just one person. There was quite a few people that had received an October 17th revelation from Christ, and you kind of felt let down. You felt that, and all we did when that did occur, we simply shared with you what was revealed to us, nothing more. We didn't necessarily come out telling you that this is the rate change date. We just tried to share with you what was shared with us. So let's look at this for a second, guys. This right here is what God was revealing to us, okay? This right here. So let's look at what some of these stuff are. So here's what happened here, guys. On this article right here, they're telling you that they've transitioned from this old Libor system, right here, I've highlighted blue for you, to a new system called the SOFR right there. It's highlighted blue for you, okay? That's what they transitioned to. Let's see what that does. The new SOFR system, guys, basically this is a prerequisite that had to take place for the rate change. It's a secured overnight financing rate, SOFR. Notice how it has the rate in the naming of it. It is a broad measure of the cost of borrowing cash overnight collateralized by Treasury securities. There you guys go. Has to do with borrowing cash overnight. Okay? There's another explanation. It says, what is a secured over the SOFR? What is it? It's the secured overnight financing rate. It's a benchmark interest rate for dollar-denominated derivatives and loans, and it's going to replace the Libor system. Okay, and it says interest rate swaps on more than 80 trillion in notional debt switch to be converted over to the SOFR in October in this month. Okay, let's look at what some of the derivatives are. What is a derivative? Guys, according to this graph chart I've got right here, derivatives can be stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies. See that? Currencies can be derivatives. Interest rate, and market indices. As you guys can see from this graph chart, it has everything to do with foreign currencies as well as rates, guys. So like I just tried to show you, that's why God put a huge emphasis on this for us, because this was kind of a precursor or a prerequisite to the rate change. Hey guys, so I've got Ron on the phone with us, and he's very energetic, very good at explaining things. So I wanted to welcome him. Ron, thank you for joining us. And then I'd like for him to, Ron, why do you think God showed you personally October 17th in regards to what's happened recently? Go ahead.
Well, first off, hello everyone, and God bless all the listeners. God bless you as well, Jeff. There's a couple of three things, and put something out. God absolutely positively informed His word, and the full manifestation that is yet to come. And what do I? So we look, just over the course of the week, two significant things. One, we see transition from the Libor rate to the SOFR rate, and if you take a moment and you look at what recently happened within the last 30 to 45 days, the SX joined the New York Stock Exchange. We understand that that's going to affect their market, this transition in rates. We understand that it's going to affect the rate exchange for currency. So is it a precursor? It absolutely positively is. And it's a sign to see it's also more significant than that. Because see, people don't understand, it's not just the Iraqi dinar revalue and it's going to affect the American or the who have that currency. This is going to affect other governments and other central banks who use different currencies to stabilize their own currency. So yeah, it absolutely had to happen. It's a positive sign. So from a global standpoint, it's probably the most significant. I know a lot of people are always saying, "Well, we have to wait for them to be released off the bad boy list for Europe and France." I said, "No, that's already occurred." Off the list of supporting terrorists, it happened with the UN. But the thing is, a lot of people sit and they wait, and well, we have to wait for this agreement. No, because Iraq just entered into conversation with Egypt and Jordan for economic stability for all three countries. So do we have to wait for that to be finalized? We know that the Financial Committee, now this is a really interesting thing. They just recently went to Kuwait, not the prime minister, not the ambassador to Kuwait, but the finance committee. And at the same time that they went, Kuwait, after the visit, suspended the building of their own port. And that port is important for imports as well as exports. But because Kuwait is a consuming economy, they do more importing than they do exporting. But why, being a neighbor country to Iraq, are they trying to build their own port? Because of the instabilities that used to be in the port and all surcharges that they were receiving from Iraq, which Kadimi came in and resolved that about approximately 60 days ago. But there still had to be conversation about that. But that wasn't why they went to visit. They went to visit to understand when Kuwait actually changed their rate, what was the impact in the local economy, and what were the spending behaviors of the citizens. See, these are things that you can't get offline. You have to actually go in country to someone who's done it and to find out what that was like, because at the time the two countries were at war, so it wasn't like Iraq had first-hand knowledge of what that situation, that revaluation of currency was for the Kuwait. So they still have to find out so they know what to expect. There's several different things in regards to the revaluation of Kuwaiti dinar. But before I get into that, there's one other thing that happened over the course of the weekend, and that was the implementation of taxes on salaries of the more than 4 million Iraqi government employees. Well, why is that important? Well, if their currency is less, if one Iraqi dinar is worth less than 1 penny, or basically nothing, how can you tax nothing? So before we get a reevaluation, wouldn't it make common sense to kind of go ahead and institute your tax program? So if you kind of, brothers, wise people have said before, in a faith regards to faith, understanding God is like following the bread, and that's exactly what we have. God is performing His word. He did exactly what He said He was going to do. And these things, in my opinion, are hugely significant. And then the central bank, they put out a statement and said, hey, listen, all of these speculations of devaluing the dinar are by economists with their own opinion. And they implored the media to stand by the official CBI that the dinar at a fixed rate. So a lot of people are trying to say, oh, there's still instability, and so we can't have rate change. So let's just, talk geopolitics. If that is the case, because we just heard of an assassination, 8 people, we hear of certain bombs and things going on, well, wouldn't that disqualify United States, who just had massive riots in 5, 6 different cities in 5, 6 different states? I mean, how much worse did it seem, and yet we're still considered a stable democracy? Well, the definition of stability is not about the lack or zero violence in your country. It's about international relations, hence the trip to France, to Europe. If people have been paying attention, France has been speaking out against Hezbollah and Hamas in Lebanon, and Syria speaking out against Turkey for what they're doing in the Mediterranean with Cyprus and so forth. France is actually a major player, and having them on board in addition with the U.S., because obviously it's a European nation, offers a greater sense of stability, meaning you can offend one foe, and if people want to believe that the United States is unpopular around the world, I don't know where you get that from. from foreign governments who are nefarious. Yeah, we're not popular with them, but the people in those countries love us. So if you look at stability, it's about partnerships. It's about having multiple people pull out all the economic resources to penalize someone who comes against someone who they're friends with, whom they have contractual arrangements with. The other thing that I think that people fail to realize is Iraq is, if you ask me, out of any underdeveloped country, has the most potential, not just all of its natural resources, it's because of all of the potential business you can do in Iraq. Iraq can become the model or model itself after any city, any country in the world, because they're starting from ground zero. So that immense amount of development would lead people or governments who's, especially going through COVID, whose GDPs are suffering, to say that we can possibly soften the economic blow by having contracts in Iraq or to assist them in development or in security. So if you look at the statement, one of the reasons why it said that the Iraqi prime minister was flying to France was to secure military security. And what does France get out of that? They get the income, the sales of those weapons. See, so people don't understand all of these things are really, really happening at a very rapid rate. But the date of the 17th, just like on March 17th, it was a March 17th was the Dow at 20. October 17th was the transition in the financial economy, the international as well as national financial economy, because the U.S. the benchmark and the world's reserve currency. So it affects every country. The transition that started this weekend with the transitioning from the LIBOR rate over to the SOFR rate. And so what does that mean? The reason, see, we have another thing. The LIBOR rate, the reason why it had changed is because it was shown and proven in 2008 that it was a manipulated and manipulable rate. So it was not stable or secure. Now, is this rate going to be less, or is it going to be the end-all, be-all to be able to do away with manipulation? Absolutely not. There's never any foolproof plan. But they know that the LIBOR for sure left open too much liability for the U.S. as the reserve currency of the world. So that happened. And that was significant. And how significant was it? Because it might sound like just talk. If the starting point of this transaction to affect $80 trillion in valuation, I don't think that's something to wink at. And if you look at the world's projected overall international worldwide debt with a price tag of approximately $250 trillion worth of debt, which means that this is in phase, and this may just simply be part one of two or part one of three. We don't know because none of us are, I'm personally not at that level. Where someone's going to actually open up the playbook and tell me. But when you look at the facts, it indicates. Now, here's the faith thing. We understand that if faith was not real, if what God had shown us was not real, the 17th in both instances would come and gone without any revelations whatsoever, without any manifestation of any transition as it may pertain to affect or bring out a revealing of the Iraqi dinar revaluation. But we know that that's not the case. That from a prophetic standpoint, for those of you who are following the prophecies as they relate to not just the dinar, but specifically the dinar in this conversation, we know that these are being hit. We know that the Dow reached 20,000 on the 17th of March, and we understand significant financial impact was put into play both international from a standpoint of what the United States did in transitioning in rates, from a national standpoint for Iraq to all of a sudden institute on income. They've had no income tax prior to that. And I always come back to this. You just don't tax nothing. Nothing, something that has no value, there's no tax value to it. And so people say, oh, yeah, they'll save, 500 billion dinar. That's nothing. So they have to be doing it as part of setting up the stage for the reevaluation of their Iraqi dinar. Look at just in the last 3 weeks how much discussion has been about the dinar revaluation or rate change. And what we see, just like they followed in the footsteps away, with a ton of misinformation, because the CBI came out just today to say, hey, listen, don't listen to that other foolishness. The Iraqi dinar is stable, and this is the other part, and this goes back to the LIBOR changing rate. They said not only is the dinar stable, it's that our foreign currencies are of great value. Our foreign holdings. This what I said just a minute ago about this rate change being able to affect currency exchange rates and offering greater stability, i.e. greater confidence in the U.S. market and the U.S. dollar, is the reason why this thing happened. And if you ask me, without a question, it had to happen. And it's an $80 trillion first step. And if anybody can wink at that, I just don't know what to tell you. But I will take this, that God has not missed a mark. God has not missed a time frame. I know that there's the other part of the prophecy is when things seem at their worst. And that definition is wide open for anybody's interpretation. For at their worst, what? COVID's not worse? Well, we all know we have an election coming up. We all know we had riots in the street. So could things get worse for the United States? Absolutely. If the market turns into a black market on Monday, could that bring about riots? Could that bring about despair? And could they blame that on the elections or the results of the elections? Absolutely. But the other thing is, why does it always have to be about us? Couldn't things being at their worst in that prophetic word be at their worst for someone else, i.e. Iraq? What if they actually do storm the green zone on or prior to the 25th? Because now you've taken over the government. Now, what would that say? That would seem like they are absolutely positively at their worst in a way of stability and security in Iraq. So all I'm saying is we're following the voice of the Lord is laying, and we have faith in that. Other people are trying to, I listen to a variety of different people speaking on the topic of currency exchange, banking, globalization, geopolitics. I listen to quite a few people who would consider themselves to be gurus in the aspect of the dinar. And what I find out is pretty consistent is all of them are selling something. Whether it be products from vendors, whether it be precious metals, whether it invest in this, or they're actively right now, not potential. We're talking actively right now, asking you to purchase. And I want to speak to one in particular, this gentleman who has people investing in precious metals, and I think he's a wonderful guy. But what I do know is he's very passionate about metals, so therefore he talks about it about it, and he tries to get people to purchase precious metals. Well, that's simply this. I do have some fractional precious metals and silver, and not a lot, but just enough in case things got bad and we hit the bartering system, that it's sustained. Because I have a family, so I have that thing there to make sure that kids still have milk or gas for the car to get to the hospital or whatever, right? But I would never overextend and overinvest in precious metals the way they're discussing it, because here's the problem. There's two things. One, precious metals is a speculation. Just like what you have is that you have historical charts, and they'll say that precious metals are significantly suppressed, pricing and so forth. Well, before we came up with the gold standard, there are active charts to show the maximum valuation of those precious metals. And if you go throughout every single incident in economic incident, whether it be a depression or recession, you've never seen reach anywhere near the level that everybody's projecting them to reach. Now, why do I say that? The reason why I bring it up is not a slight on the individual who's passionate about precious metals. From my position, knowing how, because we're talking about suppressed precious metals or suppressed currencies, there's nothing out of this category more suppressed than the Iraqi dinar. So its upside is greater. Now, from a faith standpoint, we know the same gentleman who got to prophesy many that have all come true to and include mention the dinar. And in the same time, that do not put your faith in silver or gold. People need to go back into those things themselves. He said, because the rich will be wailing. So that means that there's going to be a significant loss. But that's not what I'm really trying to get after. What I'm trying to get after is simply this. The greater upside. So let's say that precious metals, silver went from, I don't know what it is today, $26 an ounce to $260 an ounce. That's significant increase in value. And, you would be a fool not. It is. I'm not saying it's not. But you're talking about something. I think it cost at one point in time $1,000 or $1,500 to get $1 million a dinar. If they reevaluated, if they RV'd at 80 cents, you're talking about $800,000. If it RV'd if it was an RI, you're talking at least the minimum what they used to be, which is $3,220,000. So what is that's nearly, I can't even do the math. What's that? I don't know, 100,000 return, a million return. So what was the greatest investment? Because see, the thing is, the herd. You can't follow the herd when you're following God. The herd is going for all these things to give them a sense of security because they have lost faith or they can't see the dinar being a tool that God is going to use. So in this moment, I want to talk to the people who believe God. You need to pray, and you need to ask God about your investment as it pertains to the dinar. And if he tells you to hang in there, hang in there. If he tells you a date, stand on that date. Don't be swayed. But what I will tell you is don't let fear get you to take money, divert money that you could be investing in dinar or whatever other currencies that God have told you that have the greatest upside because somebody else is bombarding you over and over with investing in something else. These things that happened over the weekend are super huge. Super huge. Like, you can't even. Only thing that would have been greater than what has happened this weekend is if they actually came out with a reinstatement or a revaluation of the. That's how major these precursors were this week. But God gave us the date of the 17th. He didn't fail. He's letting you know he is in control, and this thing is here. Now, could it come out Monday when the markets crash and banks? See, here's the other thing. So think about it. If markets were to devaluate, and some people have a speculation of 40% to 80%, even if it were to go down 8,000 points, right? That would bring it back down close to about approximately 20,000. Do you know how many banks probably wouldn't be left standing if that happened? So here's why I say that. Because he says, why now? Have you ever thought to think that maybe when a reevaluation happens, the lending institutions that you currently belong to may not be, some may be closed, some may go out of business. So where will you exchange? You're going to, turn to another guru to go where they said, and then lose, get the cars or your newfound God-given wealth taken from you because you won't do your own research, you won't spend any time in prayer. But you guys, I don't get online, I don't get in chats, because if I did, you would know who I am and you would see that I commented. I don't do that. What I do is I trust God and I stand on it because he's the only one who's been a sure thing with me on this faith walk. But faith and facts are showing you that you can trust, at least to this point, what God has blessed Jeff to present to his audience. It has manifested something that God previously spoke about would happen through profit. So that's 100 for 100. You can trust that. But what you can trust more than that is your own prayer time with God, is your own understanding and your own peace about your investment. Nobody can tell you to stay in it, sell it, get more, don't get more. No, none of us are financial advisors. But from a faith standpoint, I trust what God has said he's going to do and what he has been doing, and he's been doing it very rapidly. Then I trust speculation over precious metals that through the Great Depression did not exceed the percentage of valuation increase that people are projecting. And they'll say, oh, it's because of the world's debt. The world's debt has nothing to do with the U.S. debt. And they'll say, well, it does. It's tied in because of the U.S. economy. It is, but only to a certain extent. See, what happens is these countries, and this is another thing. The reason why the stock market is at all-time highs is because other countries are investing in the stock market because of the U.S. economy and capacity to always produce wealth is a sure thing. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Whether we do it through natural resources or innovation or technology, you can depend on the fact that no matter what hits us, we were going to get up on our feet again. And that's why you see it as high as it is. So there's no guarantee it'll. But if you listen to these so-called experts, they leave those things out. And here's another thing. If the entire world shared the same sentiment as some of these experts share, why are they currently still ordering more U.S. $100 bills at a neck break pace? All I can say is just like you can't believe fake media, sometimes even with good intentions, you can't believe what everybody's saying. Now, what I will say is anything's possible. Yes, we could see a decline in the stock market. I absolutely positively believe we can see the bank or a major bank, because that was a prophetic word as well, would absolutely crash. So those things would come. But just because they come doesn't make those gurus correct. What it makes is God correct because he's performing his word. So I say follow the breadcrumb of faith. He is leading us to the finish line, and also he is trying to teach everyone how to preserve their wealth to continue to use it for kingdom business. So with that being said, I have to tell everybody, I am nothing special. I am just a regular person, and I have the same desires as everyone else for the most part. But what I do know, and many of you as well, is you trust God in spite of whatever circumstance or situation you're in. And you just have to continue to do that. Because it could all change tomorrow. It could all take another 10 years. I have no idea. I do believe that everything that he is manifesting here as within such a short window, that it is not much longer. So pray and trust God. Fellowship with Jeff, watch his videos, but know that your responsibility for your investment is yours. And if you were led to this thing out of faith, then it is God's responsibility, and put the faith and trust in him. And pray for Jeff that he would continue to get more date markers, so that when you feel discouraged and you feel like nothing's going to happen, God can put another date out there before the revival, so that you would continue to be encouraged, because God wants you to be, and he wants you to be a blessing. And I could go on about all of these different financial things that have happened. Oh, the Abraham Accord. That's another thing that is on the books for Iraq to sign that agreement. So do we need to wait on that to happen before the RI? No, we don't. Iraq does not need to sign another agreement to reevaluate their. I know everybody was saying, well, they put out a letter saying that they're keeping the World Bank's. Does anybody know who started the World Bank? The United States government. I'm just saying, guys, Iraq is in the natural. The facts are there. They are already in position to announce an RI at any moment. And this isn't hype. This is the facts. What I will tell you is the U.S. is the strongest nation one of the most blessed nations on the planet, and we are not going anywhere. Do not let people run you into fear. If you have something that sticks with you, pray about it. If God leads you to invest, because I have fractional silver and gold. Like I said, in the event that I couldn't get to the bank or my ran out, I could go to a farmer's market and exchange to feed my family. But that kind of preservation that they're talking about is for people who have two things: an immense amount of wealth and a place to secure that physical silver or gold, which none of us have. So for many of us, it's just a diversion of the finances that you could be putting into this investment, which is a faith investment from my position. All right, Jeb, I don't know.
Ron, we're good. Thank you, brother. God bless you, Ron. As always, I appreciate your efforts. You're very gifted in, just sharing your insight. So again, thank you for joining us.
God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye. So as you guys know, Ron did a great job of bringing a lot of different things into this and really reaching out to you and helping you understand why God showed this to us. So anyway, guys, God bless you guys. Take care and have a great day.